Hey, this is Smithy and you're watching Thorin's YouTube channel.
T1's Keria is both an LCK and world champion, and last year was being called the best player in the world of League of Legends around the spring, and this is all despite playing the support role, in theory the least impactful or important role in the team game of League of Legends. So immediately that can tell you, even if you're not that familiar with this player, he isn't just good at his role, he's so absurdly good that he has transcended his role and in fact transformed his role and can have impact that potentially makes him the most important player, not just on his team from his role, but in the entire world of League of Legends. Like, look, there was interesting debate back and forth between Monty and Dom as to whether it should be Keria, or for Dom it's like it should be a main carry basically, but I think it's a pretty good angle. I think it's certainly a legitimate one if you look at intangibles, not just things in the server, and you read interviews and see what people are doing in their teams, and you think, if you're not going to play a traditional carry role, top, mid, or ADC, I mean, let's face it, even jungle has the more carry potential in history, especially in the modern day when they're not that weak and when they're at the same levels and the same amount of golds. If you're going to be a world-class player who then gets in the conversation for best player in the world at your role, you better be in a truly transcendent support player. Like, the only kind of names we're talking about here are like Mad Life back in the day when he actually had mechanics that were better than some of the mid laners and ADCs. Matter when we're talking about season 4, when he not only like was arguably the best raw support, incredible mechanics, amazing lane, shot calling, but then also him and Dandy revolutionized jungling, didn't they? Then you had people like, how about Ming in the LPL? Everyone used to think, oh, it's just Uzi I is so cracked. Yeah, but that's Uzi I when he was on his own. When you saw Uzi I with Ming, he never ever looked better. That was peak Uzi I, because that was where he was amazing, he was aggressive, and he had some mechanical support monster next to him, and you could absolutely play through that lane every game. They almost won a Worlds doing this, guys, and absolutely that game could carry the game, that lane could carry the game seemingly every single time, because that's how strong this player was. And then how about Mako, obviously the other one in the LPL? This was a guy where you saw him work with a whole bunch of different supports and be a champion many times over, including a world champion, including an MSI champion, including LPL. This guy was just unbelievable, and he was another player who had all these intangibles as well as all this strength, amazing longevity. He himself went through all the different cycles and different metas, etc. So Keria changed the game when it comes to support in League of Legends, but Ridge have changed the game when it comes to supporting you having the best wallet experience. Because when it comes to the Ridge wallet, the best way I can explain it is, rather than read a bunch of copy, I actually just talk about my own personal experience, because I use this wallet. This is mine right here, and I've had it since spring of 2020. So I have had a number of kinds of wallets over the years. I've had the ones that you with the Velcro, I've had the traditional leather one, I've had the ones that were like this but with a button and they fly out for like a middle section. This is easily the best one. The problem with the button one, which was the best of the ones I'd found before, was it is small, it has a lot of the nice features, but then because it's small but it's an enclosed area, you can't actually extend how many cards get in there. It's about the same size, but you can only fit that many. Put it this way, I've got 9 cards in here, but because it's got this fabric part here, you can see, which obviously can stretch, I've only got 9 in here. You can fit up to 12 cards in here. Also, look how small this is. I don't have an enormous hand. If you look at it next to the microphone, look at it next to my face, the headphone thing, it's very small. That just fits in your pocket. You got your cards on the back. That's where I put like my bonus cards. And obviously this is a clip that you can put your cash in as well. I think that's also pretty good. It comes in 30 plus colors and styles. It has RFID blocking materials to present digital pickpocketers getting you. You can put an optional air tag on there if you want, so you can track it and see where it is. Ridge has over 3 million customers, and they are so confident that you too will love the wallet and keep using it for years like I have, that they'll let you test it for 99 days, and if you don't like it, you can send it back for a full refund. And have I got a deal for you, because Ridge has got an even better deal than usual for you. To celebrate 11 years in business, you can support my channel, get your own Ridge wallet, and save up to 30% on your order by going to ridge.com/Thorin with 3 O's. That's THOOORIN. 30% off an order at ridge.com/Thorin with 3 O's, THOOORIN. Thanks to Ridge for sponsoring this video. Now, in terms of what Keria has done, it's not just how good he is at playing support that is so significant to this particular story. It's the revolution of what he's done to the support role, in a sense, like relative to their era and scale, Mad Life and Mata and these other players coming forwards. Because in the early days, support was just about being a ward bot and having no gold and, quite frankly, just being a healer often, right? Then you think, for me, over the years, then you got there was more gold in the game, and then there was more aggressive champions and champions that could do more damage. And then you had the odd champion that would get, just by nature of over the years, put into the support role that maybe used to be a mid laner or a jungler or something. But it wasn't that common. You tended to have the same pool. And so eventually it just became enchanters and engage or hook champions, etc., range supports, etc. But you think about what Season 9 onwards did for the ADC role, where suddenly you could play mages, and the consequence of that now is, look, people don't really play Swain ADC, but you do get the Fasting Senna, and you do have these interesting bottom lanes now, and people have tried the Garen and Yumi and stuff, and all these different things, but that was just a few, because ADC as a role was always based around powerful champions, so you always have a smaller champion pool. Keria has done even more for support than what that switch up in Revolution briefly did back then, because his changes, quite frankly, carry over. He is good at basically all types of champion. He isn't a guy where he has a season where he's just not going to be as good. He might not be his absolute best, but he could even still be the best support player in any meta of support, quite frankly. All I'll say is this: name a champion or a type of champion that he can't play that other really good supports play. You'll have a hard time, I'll tell you right now. Then, obviously, one of the most important things he did was bring all these ADC champions to the support role. Suddenly, all these other supports around the world were playing it. The most obvious example is Trimby, who I actually think is kind of like a Western mini Keria in some ways, even has some of the intangibles. Obviously, Beryl was doing some of it, but Beryl, to be fair, was always kind of the outlier doing his own wacky stuff. The difference in his case was it's a bit hit and miss, and some of it was a bit silly, right? A lot of the Keria stuff, because Keria is so insanely strong and so insanely mechanically good, it just looked like it all worked really, really well. And the joke is, it's when other people tried to do what Keria was doing, you saw it wasn't as good. In fact, I'll even give an analogy very briefly. If people don't know, in the first season of the Overwatch League, one of the best players, in fact, I think the best player in the league, was the support player, Jonak, who played for the New York Excelsior. And famously, this is why it's a good comparison, he used to play his champion so aggressively and get kills and do tons of damage that his team actually played to facilitate him. He was the one pocketed by the healers, etc., and people peeling for him with the tanks, so that he could just basically carry the game, even though he was a supportive role. And by the way, that was not the way Overwatch was played throughout history. He was just that exceptionally good. But the joke is, a bunch of other teams, their coaches told me and Monty, and I was sure it's called Oversight, it's like the Overwatch version of Summoning Insight at the time. They told us that their supports would then be coming to them hey, if you just pocket me, I'll do all that stuff. And what they basically had to eventually learn and tell these other supports is, you aren't Jonak. And so in the same way, I've seen plenty of people try these Keria picks, try this Keria player style, try a bunch of the things he's doing and think they can do it, maybe because a solo queue game or a scrim worked out. And I just want those coaches or analysts to tell that player, you aren't Keria, mate. It works differently for you. The only examples, like I say, is the odd one, like a Trimby, who can sometimes do some of it. And even then, he doesn't get away with everything. Keria seemingly does get away with it. It's not, he's never just spitballing. There always is really a logic as to how it's going to work, and he's clearly put in the hours. Then you also think, the flex potential is crazy because of what he's playing. He already could flex things that other people could play in the other lanes, but now he can even flex ADCs potentially. This is the guy, obviously, who can play the Nico and the Jarvan. If you don't know, Nico's a mid lane champion, Jarvan's a jungler. He plays the Set, which was a top lane champion or mid lane at one point in time. He plays the Kale, which can be top lane. Zillion can be a mid lane champion. Senna, it can be an ADC. Wukong could be all sorts of things. A jungler, depending on the season. A top laner, if you're Armut or something. Obviously, he would play a bunch of other champions that we could flex on. Pantheon. Yeah, there's all sorts of things. This guy, I'll show you in a second some of the champions, but it's kind of bonkers. In fact, let's go and look already, actually, at this guy's champion pool and do a bit of analysis. So what we'll do is we'll actually start when he was playing on a nobody team. He's just on this nobody team here. So you can see there, he only had a couple of games. Then he obviously came to DRX. Remember, he used to play with Deft over there. That was the bot lane. By the way, he was a good player. When he joined Team 1, people were actually excited. He was way better than Effort. And him and Deft did look good on that team, actually. They were two of the better players. It was them and Chovy, obviously, with the studs. And then it was some of the others, like the Pure Shicks, that weren't that good, right? So you go and look, and straight away, Kesper Cup on DRX, like, okay, he's playing like normal champion pool there, nothing too crazy. You come to his first ever split on DRX. Yeah, look, we've got some normal picks up here. We're going down. Look, it's pretty good breadth, though. Look, you can play things like a Taric, but you can also play a Thresh and a Braum and a Boy. This is pretty good. You keep going down. Already you see there's volley bear games being played. He's playing a Lux down there. So you're starting to get some hints of what this guy's capable of. You come down here into the playoffs. He's already switching it up. He's playing a whole bunch of Karma. He's playing a Jarvan game as early as 2020. Then you go into the summer split. You go down. Look, he also always played a whole bunch of Bard as well, one of the more skilled but difficult champions to use. And you can see when people like him play, or Afromu back in the day, they're just on another level. They're just the things they can do on the map with that are so big. You keep going down. He has the Lux games there. He has the Set games. You keep going. He has Pantheon games. This is back in 2020, guys. People forget it wasn't just on T1. He has Pantheon games. He has a Kale game. He has a Zillion game. He plays Gragas support. He plays the Senna. This is in 2020, and he plays the Wukong. Then you go playoffs again. Okay, a bit more reasonable. Still has a set game in the playoffs, by the way. You come along the mid-season cup. This was the one where it was like online, remember, because this was a year where we all had to be online. More reasonable champion pool, obviously. He went to Worlds that year with the RX. They weren't that good a team. They had top 8. That was it. But he plays a couple of games of Pantheon. He does bring out a Bard game. He plays a Locks game even. So basically, from the beginning, this guy already had this in his kind of locker, as it were. And he was always trying to have this expansive champion pool that punishes the opponent, makes draft incredibly hard, gives him insane flex potential, and nobody else knows how to play these matchups or how to play against some of these matchups, especially not as effectively as he can play them. Then you go to 2021, he's on T1 now. Okay, that's cool. On T1, yeah, he's playing all the big boy stuff. He's already playing a whole bunch of Rel, where that was a champion that came in. Galio, he's playing Galio 4 games already in 2021, guys. Galio support. He's playing, if you go down, Maokai support. He's playing Nico support. This is in 2021, guys. People think this stuff's only in 2023 or 2022. You keep going down, you can play a Tam Kench and a Pike. He plays everything normal, and he plays the Gragas and the Set again and a Pantheon. Then you keep going. In the spring playoffs, he's playing some Galio as well. You go to the summer season, a little bit less of a champion pool. It's important now. Oh, what's that? He's playing Set and Lee Sin. He's playing Lee Sin at support in the LCK. This guy's ridiculous. Like the stuff. He's playing Trundle, 4 games of that and winning most of them. His Gragas is winning 3 out of 5 games that he's playing on it. By the way, he plays all the boring stuff too, like the Leonas and the Browns and on Tam Kent short stuff. Then you go down in the playoffs, obviously tightens it up a bit, but still plays a Rel game. You come to the regional finals, get through that with a normal pool. You go to Worlds, loads of Lulu, but then Thresh as well, and then Zillion thrown in there. But then he also has a Shen game. See, this guy always was a threat in the draft. He's always adding extra, even just for the opposing laners and the opposing coach to think of when they're drafting, when they're doing their comp, when they're thinking of what's possible and what the enemy can do as a response. Then you come to the era people maybe know more, like 2022, when T1 really gets rolling and they're really one of the elite teams in the world. Obviously, they were fantastic in the spring, just as they were pretty good before the playoffs in the spring last year. So you go and look, yeah, he plays Nautilus and Thresh and Tam Kench. You keep going down, he plays a whole bunch of Karma. He's always had that in his pocket. He can play the Yumi, the Ricard, if you see Renata Glask is out there. You go down, he's still playing Gragas. He's playing Zac. In 2022, he is playing Zac in support, and Zillion is still there. He's got a Seraphine. Yeah, that's right. It's not the ADC that plays it in this case, because the joke is maybe he's better, so he should play the Seraphine in the center. You know, that is almost the meme that you have at this point in time. You go to the playoffs, he's playing Lux there. Then you come to the summer season. Look how many champions he's playing here. Look, this is just a split, guys. Look how many champions. The most he played any champions 6 times. By the way, they came second in this split in the summer. So you go and look. You keep going down here. They're playing all sorts of champions up here. You can play every type of champion, by the way. Then you go down. He's got a whole bunch of Ashe games. Blitzcrank is in there. You keep going down. Lee Sin again. Keep going down. Seraphine. It's Yasuo. He played Yasuo and won it, guys. He played Camille. Admittedly lost, but he played Camille. He plays Pantheon. He plays Zillion. This guy plays whatever he wants. In the playoffs, by the way, he was playing 3 games of a Mumu. An old school, not even in the meta jungler. Plays that at support too. Oh, and a Sejuani game. Just chuck me a Sejuani game in at support, by the way. Then internationally, let's go to MSI. This is obviously between the splits. He's playing a billion champions again. Like he's playing Rumble support and Wukong support. This is internationally. He's playing Rel back when a lot of people are playing it as a jungler now. He's got the Yumi and Taric. He's got everything. He's got everything he could want. Then you go to Worlds that year. Obviously, they were 1 game from winning Worlds, weren't they? So yes, he has a bunch of the strong champions. Then he has his Soraka that not that many other people could play or make work. He has Heimerdinger. That's right, he plays Heimerdinger. Or he still plays the odd looks game when he needs to. Plays anything he wants to, guys. Then let's come to last year, and you're going to see it's just more of the same. It's just more incredible play. Because you look, one of his most played champions, his second most played champion is Ash. By the way, guys, they come second in this split. Second most played champion is Ash. He's unbeatable on Nami too. His looks is still insane. Oh, by the way, yeah, you know those ADCs? He also plays Caitlyn as one of those, and he was bonkers when he did. He plays Callista, and he's bonkers when he's not even losing any of these games. He plays Jhin support, and he is bonkers and doesn't lose. You go down, he can play Annie support. He can play the Senna. He can play Varus support. You keep going down, he could play Sona, super old school champion. He brings out the Soraka. He'll even play fucking Twitch. Now, the Twitch might be a bit of a reach, but just shows this guy can do whatever he wants. The guy can do whatever he wants. And notice how he'll win the split player, like, oh, I'm playing like Nami, Ash, Lux, Caitlyn. Oh, what's that you play in the playoffs? Oh, yeah, I'm just going to go to Rakan, Tam Ketch, and Braum. This guy he does whatever you need to do. He's not a guy where it's like, give me my strong champions. Like, no, it's like, what's strong? This guy will find a way to make it work. He's playing Lux and Ash when he's inside the playoffs. Then you go to the summer season. He's again, loads of Rel. Milio comes out, so he's spamming that and he's winning on it. You go down, he's got his Blitzcrank games in there. Galio is back in again. Is Galio even a meta champion, guys? Galio's in there when he decides it is. Then you go to the playoffs. In the playoffs, he is absolutely playing a Maokai game. We'll just chuck that one in there. Cheeky little Maokai game. Then you go, this was the Asian Games. Obviously, you do that a little bit more conservatively. Nothing to do too crazy there. At MSI, he still didn't play anything too crazy on this one, but you can see he can play whatever he wants. Then you go to the World Championship, which obviously they won this World Championship, hence it's very significant. And yeah, he has loads of Renata Glass games, so that was a strong champion. But then he has the Bard that no one else was as good on. Then he has an Ash when he needs to, play a few of that. He can play some Senna. Oh, and then also, after that, he then went, and obviously there was the Fonzie's Red Bull tournament. Yeah, he just played Caitlyn there, winning on that, plays old school Zyra, bring out a Bard, a Pike. What doesn't this guy play? Like, what doesn't he play? The guy's just impossible. Like, think about this. This guy is the guy who will have the Lux game where he just has the most damage on both teams. Like, it's ridiculous. And think about the impact it has on your draft, your other laners with the flexes, and then your ADC when he can just play any of these things. And he can play so many different combinations in lane, and then he roams as well. So another thing that I think makes this guy exceptional isn't just that he played the ADCs and the weird champions in support and made them work. That alone would be like amazing feather in your cap, right? No. How about the impact he has on all the other players in the team? So think about this. When he's supposed to be the support, they're like, I'm helping them. It's like, no, he's helping them by being so good. So he makes up for the fact that actually before Gumayushi got that good, he was the best part of the lane. And then how about this? When Gumayushi wouldn't play certain mega strong champions, obvious examples like Zeri wasn't very good at, right? Well, his versatility means it doesn't matter because you can have so many different combinations of the other champions in a different support that the other team can't prep for it. They can't prac for it. They can't quite know what support necessarily you're going to pull out. And you can come up with unique counters that otherwise aren't counters because other people can't play that support champion with that specific ADC or bot lane champion. Then, how about him helping Faker with some of the shot calling, the map movements, etc., being able to roam to him? Owner, by the way, gets way easier ganks because when he does come bot lane, he's not only got someone who's got a very smart mind, is seemingly always able to be in a position to be like potentially winning lane, has super strong mechanics, so on a gank he's going to be super useful, and sometimes he's even playing damage in ADC champions or something like a Lux, etc. That's going to make that gank a dream when you come to the bot lane on a Lee Sin if you're Owner. I actually think Owner's one of the people who gets a bit boosted by this guy. And then I've left one person, so you can think, well, top lane's got nothing to do. No. When you think how they were playing in 2023, they basically had Zeus on an island, so you could have things like old school 1v1s, and he's a very strong mechanical top laner himself, because everyone was fighting bot. Everyone was being drawn to bot like a moth to a flame, like a magnet to the pole. This guy, he is like... The gravity of him being in a server makes your eyes go to him, your thoughts go to him, his team thinks about him, the enemy thinks about him. This guy is incredible, and he's playing in a server where Faker is. Like maybe the most cerebral, smartest player ever to play League of Legends, who still is a master of like the mental side of the game and movements around the map and shot calling and playing mind games with people. And at the end of the day, I'd say Keria is the best player on his team in terms of most overall impact, not just best at their role. Then how about this guy won T1 a world championship? Like, yes, Zeus maybe was the best player, and Faker did some great shot calls and played excellently, and Guma played better than he expected. Orna almost never had bad games, but I'll tell you what, this guy's champion pool and this revolution is the main reason they won, in my opinion. Because not only was he just like lights out himself on those champions in the playoffs, but you saw the others couldn't play the bards, etc., and they didn't have the range of ADs, and they didn't have the range of bot lanes that he did. But because he showed how effective they were, and I would personally speculate, I think from the scrims, people saw that it was really good and they started copying. Everyone else skewed their understanding of the meta and what was strong by what he was doing, and they went away from what was working in the Swiss system, and suddenly they were all trying to play as champions. And so people like Missing were playing the center. People like Crisp were trying to pull out some of these Keria picks, and it wasn't looking as good on different levels, respectively. Another thing about this guy, I've referenced it earlier, is another thing that puts him in that category of the Mad Lives and the Martyrs and the Mings is, man alive, are his mechanics good. They're so fucking strong. They're so strong. And as a result, I think that's what makes him OP at support. He has everything you could want anyway in a normal support. Then he has the insane versatility, and then he just has like cracked mechanics that are better than some of the players that play the other roles, the absolute best in the world. That's just too good. Think about what this guy can do in a game. Like, he's a guy in a team fight that's going to get his spells off. He's going to force the enemy carries to react and burn ultimates and flashes and summoner spells. He's going to bait out their ultimates while tracking it and calling what's going on. His vision control is going to be mega. His use of actives is going to be sick. He's going to shot call. So it ain't just people like Faker. It ain't just the carries doing it in the team fights or when they're moving around the map together as a team or going for objectives, etc. Then how about this? In 2022, with, in my opinion, a semi-sauce Gumayushi who could choke, an Orna who would always have a choke game, and Zeus was a little bit whatever, and Faker wasn't even really that good in mid lane by the time they got to the final, they were one game from winning Worlds, in part because of this guy. Then when Gumayushi leveled up and some of the others didn't have the same issues, they just won Worlds, and actually in dominant fashion once they reached the playoffs. This guy could absolutely be a two-time back-to-back world champion if Faker didn't blow like the final, if he just played better against Zika, had a pop-off game, or Zeus didn't get gapped by Kingen, or Orna was more of a let's be real, he's only playing Pioshik, mate. He's only playing Pioshik. It's like, this guy, I don't blame him. When he was crying after that World's final, he's the one I felt the most sorry for, not Faker. People like Faker, I mean, what did you do? Yeah, exactly. What did you do? This guy did everything. He gave everything. And finally now he is a world champion. That's dope. So I actually think the conversation with this guy also needs to be, is he just the greatest support player of all time? Like, let's be real. First of all, I'll just show you the boundaries of where this discussion could go. I think he could make a case Keria. Forget support. He's just a top 10 League of Legends player of all time. His resume, the eye test, his longevity, his flexibility, his peak strength, the flaw of his game, the intangibles, the raw fucking champion put. This is impossible. Like, no one else. Take every other great support player in history, write down all their best qualities. Keria either has them all or is better than them at them all. For real, this reminds me of when I made that video about Faker being transcendent in League of Legends, how he wasn't just like the best mid laner or the best player in the league. He was like the best player ever, and to the extent I had to stop comparing him to League of Legends players at the time and start comparing him with like Simple and Cypher and Neo and Flash, basically like the greatest players of any esports game. Like, this guy one day could be in that category. His problem is he doesn't play traditional carries, so it won't seem as dominant. It won't look as good as if you show Faker highlights or Deft highlights or Uzi Eye highlights. Yeah, these players are going to look a bit more impressive. But I'll tell you what, like, if you understand the game, he's a contender for like one of the best players ever. And I think he might be a top 10 player. So for real, is this guy the greatest support player of all time? Like, he's very strong no matter what is going on. He has flexibility always. He has to do so much more than the other supports in history in the past, because now you don't have to just lane. He has to lane. You have to roam as well and know the roam timings. You have to control vision. And I'm talking about in an era when you don't have the oracles, or you don't just have a sweeper all the time. You have to use your actives. You have to peel in the team fight. You have to shot call. You have to flex so that all these different teammates get an extra added value in the draft, where sometimes they do get that champion and other times it's flexed and you trick the opponent. And then some games he has to do the damage as well. This guy is so unbelievably cracked. I actually think it's almost impossible to overrate how good he is. The closest anyone ever came was the discussion between Monty and Dom of like, is he actually the best player in the world? And even then, Dom would have said, I think it was Dom that said he wasn't the best in the world. Even then he'd say he's the best support player in the world. He just didn't think the support role could be the best or most impactful role in the world. So I think what this guy's revolution has done It's a revolution in the sense that you can take some of these things and copy them, much like even though you couldn't be Bisu as a Protoss in Brood War, you could take some of his builds and some of his concepts and some of his ideas and the paradigm of how he was combating and beating the Zergs, but you're not actually going to be him. So in the same way, you can't actually be Keria. No one can, quite frankly. In fact, I don't think anyone in history can. But his revolution has carried over into how people now think about the draft, about the support role, about what champions can even viably be used. Essentially, he turned the support role in League of Legends, a role that actually, like every other role in the game, was very, very limited, had a reductive paradigm around it, and people had ideas about what could and couldn't be a support champion. And he made it like Dota 2, where in theory, you can play any hero in any role based on your knowledge and how good you are and what you're going to do with it and how you're going to play it and what your team's playing. That's what he did. He basically jailbroke the support position in League of Legends. Hear me now. Because the thing is, I wouldn't be able to get all the work I do without my brethren, the Mandem, in the Skrilluminati, my Patreon community, because this video, like all of them on my channel, is kindly supported by Frisky, Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Ahmed Hadjou, Jensen Goh, Tobias Bernasconi, Animosity, Thooorin, Tosh, and you know it, a special thanks always goes out to Jerky's Minion, who always has my back. Would you like to ask a question in my regular AMAs? Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest I could take in my work? Do you want teasers? Find out who the upcoming guests are going to be. Maybe you want to be part of those lengthy esports discussions I do with my top donators. Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today, where? Via the Patreon link in the description box below.